The Raiders have shockingly signed a new backup quarterback, Brian Hoyer, to what? A 2-year contract. And these decisions will have a big impact on what the Raiders plan to do with Jimmy Garoppolo, and it will also have an impact on what they plan to do in the 2023 draft. Will they draft a quarterback? Well, they have 2 of them visiting their facility this week. We're going to break down everything happening with the Raiders right now. Guys, I was out of town this past weekend, so I did not upload too much content, but if you want me to upload content religiously, make sure you hit that red subscribe button,
and I will comply.
So what was so monumental about Jimmy Garoppolo when he was first signed by the Raiders was the fact that the dude had to delay his opening press conference, and now you got the staff, you got the head coach, you got the GM trying to act like that's not that big of a deal, but it was a huge deal. Think about what happened that day. You had reporters freaking out saying what is going on. They were waiting for over 2 hours in the little press conference room and nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. We had seen previously that Jimmy Garoppolo had walked in the building, saw the facility, said hi to Josh McDaniels, but for some reason they had to delay. They had to delay his introductory press conference and ultimately delay him signing his contract with the Raiders. And we even joked around that time that, oh my goodness, the Patriots, they just released Brian Hoyer. That was news around the same time. Looks like the Raiders are going to rush and sign Brian Hoyer. Well, lo and behold, they did. The Raiders have signed Brian Hoyer, the career backup for the New England Patriots. Also had some time with the San Francisco 49ers in 2017, the year in which Jimmy Garoppolo was traded to the Niners and then ultimately ended up replacing Brian Hoyer. But Brian Hoyer is signed to a 2-year contract, and that is what makes this very complicated. That is what makes this more interesting. And we're going to break down exactly what this means for the Raiders. So like we said before, Jimmy Garoppolo's signing was delayed, and we released videos about this, and okay, he ended up ultimately signing with the Raiders. And so some people said, oh, you made a big deal out of nothing. You made a big deal out of nothing. Look, the fact that it had to be delayed, the fact that the signing had to be delayed means something happened, and it means that something went wrong. Something went wrong. There's either two possibilities, and one we broke down, and which is what a lot of people thought was possible, is that he could have failed his physical. He could have failed his physical, and then in that instance, what you would have to do is get a second opinion from another doctor to have him pass his physical then. But sometimes owners don't want to sign off on the deal if someone fails a physical, and you actually had this happen with Roger Saffold, who ended up becoming a Ram, who actually visited the Raiders facility, and then Mark Davis did not like the fact that he failed his physical, and so Mark Davis did not end up signing Saffold. Now, what happened with Jimmy Garoppolo is he could have either one, failed his physical, they had to get a doctor's second opinion, or either from the Raiders side, but most likely from Jimmy Garoppolo and his agent side, when they sat down to sign the contract, there was likely something that they did not like in that contract, and therefore they had to rewrite it and change some language. And Dave Ziegler did admit this. He said, we were optimistic. We were never worried that we were going to get the deal done, but we just had to, fine tool some of the language. But the Raiders, or the head coach, the GM, Jimmy Garoppolo side, no one has explained exactly why this signing had to be delayed and why the press conference had to be delayed. No one has explained this. They've just said, we had to fine tune some things and ultimately not give an answer, which, hey, that's their right to not give an answer. It is an internal, business decision that they are making, right, between the organization and the player. And obviously you want to keep a lot of things hush hush, try to keep things professional, right? But we know that something happened. Either Jimmy Garoppolo saw some language in this contract, said, I don't like this. His agent said, I don't like this. Maybe it has to do with injury guarantees. Who knows? Or he couldn't pass the physical, had to get a second opinion. So either way, the Raiders have signed Brian Hoyer, and this means only one thing. It means they're covering their ass in case Jimmy Garoppolo does not work out. And it also means they anticipate that Jimmy Garoppolo may not work out. Therefore, you have to sign Brian Hoyer to a 2-year deal. Why not just give this guy a 1-year deal? We know Jimmy Garoppolo's contract is basically a glorified 2-year deal, mainly a 1-year deal. The Raiders would still eat some dead money if they moved on from him next year, but it is possible. It is possible, right? And they wouldn't eat too much. And the Brian Hoyer deal, we don't know the exact number, but we could probably anticipate it's going to be veteran minimum. But I think the key thing to point out here is the fact that the Raiders only carried 2 quarterbacks on the active roster last year, and you had Chase Garbers going in and out, and it kind of seems odd that it seems like they're going to keep maybe 3 quarterbacks on the roster this year. Are they anticipating Jimmy Garoppolo not being here next year, Jimmy Garoppolo either not being healthy this year, and so you need your Brian Hoyer to back up maybe your potential rookie QB in Will Levis or Anthony Richardson? And we know the Raiders' interest in drafting some QB. There has to be some QB out there that the Raiders want. We've heard reports reports that they're interested in getting the Cardinals' number 3 overall pick. We know for a fact they inquired about Chicago Bears' number 1 overall pick before the Panthers traded up and grabbed that pick. So there is some quarterback who is available around pick 1 to 3, and maybe the third quarterback possibly taken that the Raiders want and the Raiders think would be worth it, right? There is that guy out there. Anthony Richardson is visiting Friday, part of a top 30 visit. You get 30 visits every draft, and they visit your facility. You get a real hands-on look at a player. That's what these top 30 visits are for, but take them with a grain of salt because last year the Raiders did not draft anybody who they had a top 30 visit with. But Richardson will be visiting Friday. He is visiting a lot of teams. He's visiting 6 teams right now. So we'll see what's up. We'll see what's up. The Raiders are going to be taking a look at Richardson, and just yesterday on April 3rd, they did have a top 30 visit with Will Levis, the Kentucky QB. He did go to the facility. We know that the Raiders had people at all the pro days, Richardson's pro day. We know Dave Ziegler got a little up and close during Richardson's pro day, and he was very excited. This could all be smoke screens, right? This could all be smoke screens, but going back all the way to the Brian Hoyer signing, the reason why I bring up these top 30 visits is because I think the Hoyer signing is laying the groundwork for having him be your number 2 QB or your mentor teaching a young rookie QB the scheme. Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, he has experience with the scheme, but it's been a long time since he's been in that scheme. You know, pretty much the fall and spring of 2017. So it really has been almost 6 years since he's been in the scheme, and he's been in this West Coast offense with Kyle Shanahan most of the time. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo, is he really going to last this year? Is he going to be somebody who maybe the Raiders have to restructure? Maybe they have to move on from next year due to injuries. Would we really be surprised if that happens? Obviously not. Is he somebody who the Raiders are anticipating being beaten out by a rookie QB? You know, boost a rookie QB's confidence. Can you beat out Jimmy Garoppolo straight up at training camp? Can you do it? Can you beat him out throughout the season? Is this what they're anticipating? Brian Hoyer would lay the groundwork for that, being a true number 2 quarterback and a true mentor to a rookie QB. I think that's what's happening. In other news, even though the Raiders have signed so many wide receivers, they just keep signing wide receivers. Recently grabbed DeAndre Carter and grabbed Keelan Cole, but the Raiders have a visit with Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers. This guy is sort of an unorthodox wide receiver, but very talented, a flashy playmaker. I think he would obviously be great. Obviously, we don't take all these top 30 visits so seriously, but you only get 30. You only get 30, so it is something to pay attention to. They're doing their homework on Zay Flowers, trying to figure out what kind of player this guy is, having him visit the facility, and he did visit the Cowboys previously, but maybe they just want to know, hey, this is the type of receiver the rest of the NFL is into, what's going on there, or maybe they're really interested in taking this guy and they would not mind moving on with some of these veteran wide receivers that they recently signed. Now, speaking of wide receiver, not only do they have Edgar Bennett as a wide receiver coach still, been in the league for a long time, 30 years experience with Devontae Adams. Well, they just added Danny Amendola this offseason under the radar. Some people have noticed this. You have Field Yates talking about this right here, and Danny Amendola is going to be a returner type of coach, right? That's sort of what he's up to right now. We recently signed DeAndre Carter. Maybe he'll have some returner duties, and that's why we have Danny Amendola there. And maybe Danny Amendola's role will respond, and maybe he might even take on some wide receiver coaching duties in the future. Who knows? But seeing more Patriots and former Patriots staff being added to the Raiders, interesting to see. I often wonder how confident this staff really is in Jimmy Garoppolo. And obviously they have to say all the right things. You had Mark Davis say, oh, he's a winner. Same thing with Ziegler and McDaniels. And maybe they are somewhat confident with the guy, but I just find it highly suspect that they expect him to be the franchise QB. I don't think anyone's expecting that, and especially just given his history. And this is a funny meme that people are posting around just as from the owners meeting. Jimmy Garoppolo really kept this squad from winning a ring. Now, I don't think QB is responsible for everything, but look, we got Devontae Adams. Now, he loves the deep ball. Jimmy Garoppolo historically cannot do that, does not have the arm, and does not even make those type of pass attempts. And clearly the 49ers figured that they need a more dynamic QB in order to be successful. And you have this rock star staff that they had in 2019, Mike McDaniel there, DeMeco Ryans, Kyle Shanahan. You got 4 GMs and 4 head coaches from the staff, Saleh as well, right? And obviously you got John Lynch and company, but you have all these people and they're blaming Jimmy Garoppolo for them not being successful. But it is interesting to see just how talented, not only from the players on San Francisco's team around the time when Jimmy Garoppolo was a starter, but also the front office. You have both of those sides rocking and rolling, and because of Jimmy Garoppolo's health, ultimately not too successful, and maybe his play on the field. So I just feel like, with the Brian Hoyer signing, with the fact that the Raiders are having visits with quarterback, with the fact that they're even interested in trading up, I think they really were maybe relying on Tom Brady being available in this upcoming offseason. The fact that he didn't work out made them, I think, instantly jump for Jimmy Garoppolo just so they have somebody, but I don't know if they're entirely sold on the guy. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think the Raiders are really going all in on Jimmy Garoppolo this season? They think he's going to be the guy, or are they just really anxiously waiting for somebody to replace him? Let me know in the comments below. Either way, man, we're going to keep you up to date with all kinds of content. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. If you're still watching right now and you want us to upload more content, we also have WiFiWillie NFL. We'll be posting more NFL videos there as well. Peace out, everybody, and I hope you have a good one.